have faith in God is not a stagnant state. It's a journey. As a believer, we should grow in our knowledge of God and His Word. Walk with Alan Cutting and many other believers as together we walk the believer's journey.
Aloha and welcome again to the Believer's Journey. Thank you for joining us today. I want to say I really appreciate all your support, your watching our program. When you're on the YouTube, please subscribe to us, make comments, and any questions you have, you can send them on to me or get them to my email and I will respond to them. Today is going to be a really fun day. It's a really interesting day. I have a good friend of mine from Moldova, Makai, is here, and his wife is with us but not on the program today. And anyway, Makai Duca is with us. We're going to talk about his life and what he's doing in Moldova and where he came from the USSR Soviet Union. And so anyway, welcome.
Yeah, thank you so much, Alan, for this invitation. It's a privilege to be here and to share more who I am, what I'm doing, and how God is working in Moldova, a country far away from the United States.
I usually mention Moldova almost every program.
Okay, so the people who are listening to you, usually they know where is Moldova.
Most likely, they should know. It's kind of between Romania and Ukraine, and right there in the middle, and they're on edge, and some people are with their documents ready to leave pretty soon if Russia moves in.
Yeah.
So, we met, 7, 8 years ago?
I don't remember exactly. Something like that.
Okay, you and your wife stayed in our home for a week or more. And an interesting thing is every time we're in Moldova, you're always busy in somewhere. You're helping some group, whether you're playing guitar, whether you're helping with their microphones or cameras, whether you're teaching. You seem to be really busy, and I think that's really cool.
Sometimes. Maybe when just you are seeing us, I'm busy at that time. But yeah.
So tell us about your life. You were born in the Soviet Union when it was the Soviet Union was there.
Yes. So that's right. I was born in Moldova when Moldova at that time was part of Soviet Union. So because Moldova was part of Soviet Union, of course, all the environment around us was like communist, socialist, atheistic background. Most of the churches were closed at that time. So actually, I grew up as a kid, as a teenager, as an atheist. I had no idea about God, who is God, what He's doing, and all those stuff. So your program is called the Believer's Journey. So I think that every person is on kind of journey. Someone on this journey is closer to God, another one is far away. It's it's trying actually to hide from God, and I would say at that time I was really far away from God, but my journey as a believer started actually when I was a student. At that time Moldova was already an independent country.
So I have a question. So you mentioned that during the Soviet Union years, you were an atheist. However, tell us about the Orthodox Church, because I know the Orthodox Church was functioning during this period.
I think just some small churches were functioning, but I remember exactly that some monasteries, because I'm close to, my hometown is very close to a famous place in Moldova. It's an old monastery in the rock, actually, and many people are going to visit this monastery. So when I was a kid, and at that period, during the Soviet Union, that monastery was closed, and many other Orthodox churches were closed. They were open just after the independence in 1991. So for sure, some churches they function, but not all of them. So that's the situation with churches, with Orthodox Church at that time. And of course, I don't know much about the like all the underground evangelical churches in Moldova at that time, but for sure there are some groups that are trying to do churches. But I was not familiar at all with any churches because, as I said, at that time I don't care about religion and God and all those stuff.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, like Moldova became an independent country in 1991, and I went to university in 1997. I studied architecture at Technical University in Moldova. So that's interesting that my first thoughts about is there really a God came from my lessons of philosophy. I don't know why, but any students, they need to have a course of philosophy. So I remember exactly till today how just once my professor of philosophy, he said one phrase that stuck in my mind for a longer period of time. He was not a believer actually. But he said something like that it's not possible to prove scientifically that God exists, but also it's not possible scientifically to prove that He does not exist. And the word proof here is like a very specific word. Like we can talk more about the word proof, but maybe later. So like for the first time in my life I was thinking, okay, what scientific proof do I have that God does not exist? And I didn't become a Christian at the time, but somehow I started to think more about maybe there is a God, and I became from I would say from an atheist I became more an agnostic, like. But the next year, the place where I was living, like my neighbors were like a few Christian girls. So they were young, I was a young student, and their intention, of course, being Christians, they wanted to evangelize me, but like from my side, I just wanted to hang out with them, and we talked a lot. So they tried to convince me that there is God and what is written in the Bible is true and all those stuff. I didn't pay much attention to that. But just once they invited me to a church. It was actually a Baptist church. And it was very strange for me. Why? Because I've never been to a Baptist church. I've been before to an Orthodox church in Moldova, but never been to something else that is not Orthodox. And I was just thinking, okay, let's go to see what's a Baptist church in our country, in Moldova. And yeah, it was a youth meeting, and at that youth meeting someone was sharing his testimony, how he became a Christian. And like sharing testimony, he said this phrase: if someone in this place doesn't believe in God but wants to believe in God, just ask him to discover to you somehow, and he will do that. So he was sharing his testimony. He did the same, and God discovered to him. And I remember that exactly the same night I went at home, I went to bed, and it's very strange, but usually I'm talking to God even today, after 20 plus years, when I'm going to bed. And it's the most fruitful time for me to meditate and to pray. So I remember that I was trying to say something to someone that I didn't believe at that time. But I think I was a very sincere agnostic or atheist. Just I was looking for truth, and I just said to that God, if you are, please discover to me somehow. I don't care the way you will do that. I just want to be sure that you exist. And usually I'm saying, and guess what? Nothing happened. So I haven't seen lights from the heaven or angels or some special dreams and all those stuff. It's interesting that I started to read the Bible, and I had many attempts before to read the Bible, and all the time I started with Gospel of Matthew, and the first chapter of Gospel of Matthew is just genealogy of Jesus Christ. It's the most boring page I thought at that time is, and I stopped on the first chapter every time I tried to read the Bible. But somehow at that time someone gave me a brochure just with Gospel of Luke. Why? Because in Moldova, Campus Crusade, or right now Crew, they started to show the Jesus movie, the life of Jesus, that was filmed over Gospel of Luke. So, and because it was a thin brochure, not much to read, I did it very easy. And after I started to read all the Bible, and just in time, and I don't know why, so it's not possible for me to explain rationally why. So I think I'm a rational person, and my faith actually is very connected with my reason. But it's not possible for me to explain rationally why, but on the way reading the Bible, somehow I was convinced that what is written there is true. So it was an easy decision for me. Okay, if I believe that something is true, it's easy to follow that. It's not a big problem. So that's the way, how I became Christian. That's my journey with God.
Okay, so you joined Campus Crusade, what, 2002?
Yes, I joined as a full staff, full-time working.
And you also got married in 2002?
Yes, exactly the same year.
That's a tough one. That's a lot of stuff in 1 year.
I think it was easy. It was not really difficult. Yeah.
So, as I've known you, you're a lot into education. Philosophy. Now you've changed from architecture, and you're really big on philosophy. What turned you to that direction?
It's very strange that Christianity, when I believed I was at second year in university, so I had 3 more years to study architecture at that time. But something changed in my mind, in my heart. So I don't know. I loved philosophy, so I was really interested in that. But as I said, we had philosophy just in our first year, no philosophy anymore at the architecture department. But I just started to read by myself some philosophical books, other stuff, because I wanted my faith to be really solid, to have a real solid fundament.
Fundamental.
Yeah, fundamental. Not just I believe because I believe in something. No, I believe because I have strong foundation to believe what I believe. After it was after 15 years I did my master program in philosophy at State University in Moldova, and right now I'm almost not yet finishing my PhD in philosophy. So that's
pretty admirable. And I guess it'd be a lot of work to go to school and work as a missionary at the same time.
Yes, it's not easy. It's really difficult.
Yeah.
You need time, just to read many books, to do your writings, participate at different conferences, and all those stuff. So
yeah. And then I know for the work you guys do in with Crew, as missionaries, it's really a lot of work, and you have a lot of reports every week. So you guys are busy, and I would say you in particularly have a lot of busyness in your life.
I think right now we are I would say, more busy than when we were before last year, like February 24th, when Russians attack massively Ukraine. And because we have a lot of refugees right now in our country, and we still have them, this is a big part of our ministry, what we're doing. And actually my wife Tanya, she is every day involved in a day center with mom and kids. So yes, it keeps us very busy.
So the situation with Moldova and Ukraine, with Moldova bringing all these refugees over, there's a lot of things that have happened and have changed that I don't think a lot of our viewers know what's happening. And I know that you have a day center. I know you have, where people can stay, and so forth. And you give a lot of things like food and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
Talk to us about what Crew and what you guys are doing. You in particular, your wife in particular, what you were doing in that part of ministry.
Mm-hmm. So, like the February 24th, 2022 was, I would say, one of the worst day I've remember, because I woke up at like 5:36 in the morning, just hearing something far away. It was not loud, but anyway, in my first thought was, I hope that's not war. And I was trying to look on the media, what they're saying, and Moldova media at that time in the morning, they're saying nothing about that. I opened Facebook, trying to see what our Ukrainian friends are saying, and almost all of them are just sending messages saying the war has started. So, like for half a day, I just watching news, trying to understand what is happening, how that may affect Moldova, our country. And it was really very deep emotional day, and for sure it was much more difficult for Ukrainians than for us. And even from the first day, because of this Russian attack, many Ukrainians, of course, are trying to escape from the war, and Moldova has border with Ukraine, and the city of Odessa, a big city in Ukraine, is very close to Moldovan border. So many people from there tried to come into Moldova, and maybe most of them actually wanted to leave, to go forward to Europe. I know maybe Germany, Poland, or some other countries, Hungary, yes. I remember how just on Thursday we had few people in our office, and we weren't prepared for that, like to help all those people. So we brought from the home everything we had, some blankets, pillows, some mattresses, and just trying to help somehow all those people that are coming. And of course, with every day, we had more and more people that are coming. And not just Campus Crusade, but I would say all the churches in Moldova were trying to do everything they can to help all those people. And the most sad part is mostly moms with kids were those who are crossing the border, because men are not allowed to leave the country. And it's like, it was really so sad to see kids with mom just, and it was cold. It's February 25, 26 already, and it's still cold in Moldova. And we just try to help them, to host them for 1, 2, maybe 3 days, because most of them just intended to go forward to, of course some of them are staying in Moldova till now. And our office became, a place where we hosted the Ukrainians. And like first weeks, we were in the office like 24 hours around. And we're waiting for calls like 24 hours, not just like from 8 to 7. No, 24 hours. And all the crew missionaries, and about 60 refugees are staying till today in that place, but they're staying for a longer period of time, not just for 1 or 2 days. And as I mentioned, like we have a day center for kids and mom. They come for half a day. It's a safe place for them. So, yeah, all those stuff are keeping us very busy. But at the same time, right now, after almost 1 year of the war, we're trying to do as well, like the normal work we did before the war. So. Yeah.
So what is your normal work and what is Tanya's normal work? What do you do as a couple crew?
Yeah, so for about 3 years I'm part of like a very specific department in Campus Crusade Moldova. It's called Digital Strategies. So what we're trying to do with all these digital strategies, we're trying to share the gospel, to make disciples through internet. And like we have a saying in our team that behind every screen
Cast our program twice.
Yes, yeah. So that's one way what we're trying to do. Also, we're trying to maintain a website with different articles, with different materials for evangelism, for discipleship, and like the most interesting thing is that when we're looking on the statistics, the most popular article on our website is "Who is Jesus?" So somehow many people are looking specifically for this question, and yeah, I think it's very important work because many of those people we will not see them in our life. Personal, like face to face, but it's just one step, one opportunity for them to know more about God and maybe to take one more step closer to Him.
It's interesting. Since we've been doing this program, The Believer's Journey, I noticed there's about maybe 400 or 500 people in Moldova that watch my program regularly, and before the war, there was actually, you had a couple thousand in Russia and about 1,000 or more in Ukraine. Of course, now that's kind of non-existent. But I always wondered about that, and so what you guys do is amazing because what I was told one time is that how this is going in different countries or different areas where people don't have the opportunity to go to a church, but they have a computer or they have a phone, or they have a way to connect, and we become that voice of Jesus. So what you do is really important because it really is the voice of the gospel, the voice of Jesus to people who are unable to go to a church, who are stuck somewhere, who don't have a church to go to, or don't know where to go.
Yes, and I would say we are living in a very special time. We can call it a digital era, and most of the people, they have access to the internet. They spend a lot of time in this digital area, and we as a Christian, I think we should be there. And I know that many churches, other organizations, they have something to offer through internet, because if we will not offer them the gospel on the internet, someone else will offer them something else. So that's the reality. And the funny thing, it was not funny, but anyway, we started this digital ministry exactly in the same year when the pandemic came. So it was exactly on the right time. Because everything was closed, and of course we as a ministry, we just tried to do something. And I remember we did a special outreach on the internet. It was called The Amazing Question. So all the staff were involved in this amazing question. It was before Easter, and like we had many good conversations through Messenger with people. It was exactly on the right time. I would say right now people are not, how to say, they are tired of all those like having classes on the internet, on Zoom, and they want more like face-to-face communication, and that's good.
Actually, it's really important because I think the way that we actually grow as believers is with that personal interaction. That's how you pray for one another, lift each other up, do things to help us do all that. Now, I was reading, now on your website, I was reading that it says you're part of leadership development.
My wife Tanya, she is part of like this department in Crew Moldova. It's called LDHR, Leadership Development and Human Resources. So, like, her direct job description is to help the new staff in Crew Moldova, like to train them to be more successful in the ministry they're doing. So this is her responsibility. But as I said, right now she's like more involved, almost every day involved with this the ARC. We call it the ARC Center for the moms and kids.
Well, Tanya has got my heart. She's amazing. She's, you know, I really like people who stand up for what is right and vocalize. And for things that are wrong, stand against. And your wife is one of those people.
Yeah.
You know, I've seen her go on Facebook and say, no, this is not the way it's supposed to be. Jesus, this, and that. And I'm seeing, wow, she's really powerful when she does that. And there's a few people, Radu's wife, Luda, is like this. Same thing. And you just stand up and you stand up for what is right, what is Jesus, you know. Yeah. And I think you've got a pretty cool wife.
Yeah, thank you. I agree with you.
So, for all of you watching the program, on my website, you can go to the guests and you can see Makai there and your wife. Actually, I put a picture there is in your national
costumes.
Yes. I don't call them costumes, but yeah, okay.
Okay.
Dress. And toward the bottom, you'll see a little picture of Moldova. You click on that, and it takes you right to their website, and you can read about them. You could, if you want to give to their ministry, there's a little place you can give a gift. It goes right to Campus Crusade, so it goes right there. And if you want to get on their website, on their Facebook, you click on the little Facebook icon there, and it'll take you right to their Facebook, and you can see, listen and watch or participate in their Facebook stuff. So anyway, you guys are great. I like you guys.
Thank you.
Unfortunately, when we go to Moldova, I don't have a lot of time to socialize with you. Like, you have more time here than I do there. It's like they keep
you are busy when you are coming to Moldova.
They keep me busy day and night. I usually, after 2 or 3 weeks, I usually get sick. I'm coming down with a cold because my resistance is so low because I get so tired.
So next time when you'll come to Moldova, you need to come at least for 1 week just to do nothing, or just to visit some interesting places, just to have rest.
I tried that once. The first time that my wife was wanted to come out, we went out, and so I was called. Radu had told me that I was going to meet with a whole group of teachers. There's about 80 of them, and so I was going to give a talk to all these teachers about teaching. And it was the National Teachers Day. Well, I didn't know this, but he was telling me all that. So I'm there, and they're introducing me. The girl is in charge of Crossroads. Her name is Natasha. And she introduces me in Romanian. Of course, I don't know what she's saying. And Radu and Vitaly, his brother, are both sitting there laughing. And I'm like, what's so funny? Well, you don't know, but she just told them, you were the teacher of the year in America.
Oh.
Well, that's not true. And now I have some accolades, and I told her, this is what it is. She goes, well, it's to them, it's the same thing. So it was really interesting that we were going to take that whole week off and go all over Moldova and visit. Well, she also told them after my speech, she said, Alan is available all week long if you want them to come and speak to your classes.
Okay.
So I had 10 appointments through the week. So our vacation was totally gone, and now we went and ministered to all the schools that got sent.
I'm sure you were happy.
Oh yeah, it was great. You know, and I wouldn't change it either. It's so funny. So taking a week off and saying, "Oh, this is my week off," it never happens. It won't happen.
Yeah.
When people find out I'm there, it's like, okay, now I'm called to this church to teach or questions or preach or something, and it gets so it's what I do. I love Moldova and I love working there. It's great. So anyway, we're going to talk about faith for the next half hour.
Yeah, let's try.
Faith is one of these things that I believe is so misunderstood in today's world. I don't know what it was like 300, 400, 500 years ago or 600 years ago, but in today, it's something. And in faith also is really similar in the belief or the understanding of what the word believe is. So when you say faith, pistis in Greek, pistuo is the word for what we call believe in Greek, and they have similar meanings, okay?
At least the root is the same.
The root is the same, and they're very, very close. But, so I'm going to start off, and then we'll go on with this, but I'm going to start off with the problem that at least I see that a lot of people are understanding is that they look at the word faith as a noun.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if you go to our modern day dictionaries, you may find it as a noun. But in doing a lot of research from the last couple thousand years, in about several hundred years after, obviously several hundred years ago from today, earlier, the word "fe," which was taken from the Latin, what happened was they added a th sound or th suffix onto the word, which created a verb of action. So today when we see the word faith, it's something that we see created. Let's say if you have a King James Version Bible, okay, in English, and I don't know if your Bibles kind of correlate with the King James or not, or other versions, but when you put in that word, the letters th, you created a verb and a verb of action. So no longer can you say that, well, the word faith is a noun, because really it's not. It's a verb. It's a verb of action. Just like the word believe. Now we use the word believes, like in John 3:16, for God so loved the world that whoever believes in him shall not perish but have everlasting life. The word believes, again, you have to go back to the King James Version, and it uses the word believeth. Mm-hmm. And what do? They add that th on the end, which what does it do? It gives it an action sound meaning in the English at least. Now, I don't know about Romanian or Russian. You know another language too other than that. Do you know Ukrainian?
Yes, I...
Okay.
So speaking about languages, actually you have in English like the word faith and believe. In Romanian it's just one word for both these words. Mm-hmm. So it's actually more confusing than what you have.
Actually, I was looking up verses, because I have a way of looking up all these different translations. And there's a lot of... King James took this word and they created it, they interpreted it as believeth. Okay? Mm-hmm. Where you look at a lot of other translations, it'll say faith or believes, or but so it interacts. And together, the two words, faith and believe, in English, together is written about 300 times in the New Testament. Mm-hmm.
So like in Romanian language, the word faith and believe, as I said, it's just one word. Mm-hmm. And actually this word could be a noun or a verb. It depends on the context in how you are using this word. And actually in Russian it's the same. They have just one word for believe in faith, and it also could be a verb or could be a noun. So because this concept of faith, believe, it's so complex. So I'm trying to use the word complex. It's not difficult, but it's a very complex. It has a lot of meaning in it. Usually, I'm trying to explain the word faith using not one word, but 3 different words or 3 different concepts. So the first concept that I'm using explaining faith is knowledge, actually. Mm-hmm. Why knowledge is so important and why knowledge is part of faith. Because in order to believe something, in order to have faith in something, you need at least to have the elementary information, like just a piece of information. Because if you don't know anything about your object of faith, it's not possible to have faith in that. So this is just like first step and first concept how we can explain, but it's not enough. So only knowledge, it's not faith, but we need to have knowledge in order to have faith. Okay. So the second concept that I'm using to explain the word faith, it's actually willing. So we need to have an attitude towards this knowledge that we have. And let's like have an example. I have a knowledge about, like let's say, about a God. His name is Yahweh. But it's not enough having just knowledge about a God with the name Yahweh. I need to have some attitude about this knowledge. I am agree with all this knowledge. Is this knowledge true or not? So I need to take an attitude. So that's the second concept that I'm trying to use to explain the word faith. And the last one, and I think it's very important, is the it's a verb actually. Like we need to act in some way. We need to do something, because it's not enough to know. It's not enough to be agree. You need to do. And usually, I have an example that like will help to understand more all these 3 concepts. It's like, let's say I know exactly that the train. I know. Do you have train here in San Antonio?
Yes.
Let's say a train. I have the knowledge about the train that is going from San Antonio to Chicago. Let's say. Okay, and I know exact when this train is going, the way how train is going to Chicago. Okay, so that's cool. But also, like, I need to have an attitude towards this information, this knowledge. Like, I want to be agree that, yeah, this is the right information. It's not the wrong information about how train is going to Chicago from San Antonio. But, you know, if I want to go to Chicago by train, it's not enough just to have knowledge and to be agree that this information is true. What do I need to do? I need just to go to sit in the train, like to buy a ticket, to sit in the train, and just to go to Chicago. So that's the actual what I call faith. I know something, I am agree with that, and I'm acting in some way, I'm doing something. So because of this, I think faith as a verb is a very important understanding of this concept.
Yeah, and I have I have an illustration that I show people all the time. It's like I was taught when I was a teenager, and I went to go to a Sunday school class when I was like 15 years old. I started to go, and the teacher at the time would teach what faith is, and he would look at a chair that was empty, and he would say, okay, you all see that chair over there, okay, and it's got 4 legs and so forth. Faith is believing, trusting that if I were to sit in that chair, it would hold me up. That's what faith is.
Yeah.
Well, that's all my understanding. Well, now I totally disagree with that. That's not even true. Faith is seeing the chair, understanding it'll hold me up, but it's also walking over and sitting in the chair.
Yes.
That's faith.
Yes.
And biblical faith In the Old Testament, we use the word, or the Bible uses the word trust, which has the same equivalency as faith. We're trusting, we're giving of ourselves. I heard a long time ago somebody use the term who, in English it's probably not a real word, but they say what really it should be is faithing. I am faithing, because you're acting, you're living, you're doing what it says. It's interesting what the TH does. I want to go back to that real quick, because I think it's really significant. When we have words like strong, okay, or we have deep, if we change it with a TH, we have strength. What that does, it gives it an action and a description. Deep, depth, strong, strength. Now we're giving it an action and a description, where before it was just a plain noun. Okay, and I think that we need to see that when we look at faith. We have an action. Jesus said in John 8, chapter 30, many put their, I mean, Jesus didn't say this, but it says, as he spoke, many put their faith in him. That word faith is not a noun. They put their, I believe that he's real in him. They put their faith as they're faithing. They put their action in him.
Yes, but at the same time, like that's really important. But it's also important, like as I said in the beginning, to have knowledge, and this knowledge to be true, like the object of your faith. Because if your object of the faith is something that it's not true, it's not corresponds to the reality, you may have faith. Actually, you can take some steps to do something, but it will be like a crazy action or something that is stupid. And like we can see many people that, let's say, I was born in USSR, and like the communist, socialist ideas, they were really big there. And like I saw, even I remember from the school, it's a joke. It's actually a real story. I think I was at in elementary school, and I was saying somehow that Lenin. Do you know who is Lenin?
Lenin. Yes.
Yeah. I said Lenin is dead, and one of my fellow from the class said, "How you can say that? He is not dead. He is alive." And because like he grew up with all these ideas that he's so big and he's so important for our country that he is not dead. So see, sometimes we can have faith in something that is really weird. It's really untrue. It's and we can act accordingly to that ideas. And let's say, for example, the war that is happening right now in Ukraine. For sure, there are many people and many soldiers in Russian army that believed what their propaganda, their government are saying about Ukraine. So they are going into Ukraine to fight, to kill many people, because they strongly believe that what they're doing is true. So see, they are acting, but their acts are just foolish.
That's a perfect way to say it.
Yeah.
It's interesting because there's a chapter in the Bible. It's chapter 11. We call the faith chapter.
Yeah.
You have
Hebrew
11, and it's interesting that when I've heard people say, "What is faith?" or ask them, they'll quote the first verse, and the first verse says, "Now faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen." So when we're talking about this, and they stop there, this is what faith is, but they don't even know that the rest of the chapter deals with what faith really
yes.
is. And it actually goes through. And, I mean, it says, verse 4, by faith Abel offered God a more excellent sacrifice. Verse 5, by faith Enoch was taken away so that he didn't see death. Verse 7, by faith Noah, being divinely warned of things not seen, moved with godly fear, prepared the ark. Verse 8, by faith Abraham obeyed when he was called out to go to the place where he would receive an inheritance. And then back to verse 6, Without faith, it is impossible to please God.
Mm-hmm.
When we look at these things, we're looking at a matter of obedience. By faith they did this.
Yes.
Why? Because God called them to do something and they followed it. And so faith has, it doesn't mean obedience, but it has an indirect connection with obedience.
Yes, definitely. I think everything happened. Why they have disobedience? Because they knew, like we can start again with knowledge. They knew something about that God, Yahweh. They knew that this is the true God, that this God is a faithful God, and all those stuff. So because knowing God, knowing maybe the nature of God, we are not able to read much in the Bible, like before Abraham, for example, did all those stuff. How was his relationship with God? But anyway, we may assume that for sure he had some knowledge of God, and because of that, he knew he's not object, a subject of faith, and he was like totally trusting this God, and because of that, he acted in the way he acted.
Yeah, and I think anyway, with Abraham, what's really interesting, because they all say how he's the man of faith, but how often did he lie to Pharaoh and to save his skin or do things and so forth? He had a knowledge and he had an attitude, but there was that action that was missing. And finally, the angels and the Lord came down and said, "Hey, when are you going to get it together?" Because in between that, Sarah says, "Here, take my maiden and have your child." But the action that they were looking for was one of holiness that was really obedient and following God in what he was trying to tell them to live by.
Yeah, so see, I can see here something very interesting, and I think C.S. Lewis put it like in Mere Christianity, I read like many years ago, I think just when I became a Christian. So he put this in a very interesting way when he's talking about faith. He's saying that, and he's connected with beliefs that we have. Even we have strong beliefs in God, who is God, how he was trustworthy before. We experience him in our life, but even we know that something is true. We are not acting every time according to our beliefs. So that's the reality of our human being, of our human nature. And he's saying about like emotions, about different problems, suffering, that sometimes they just take over on our reason, on our faith, and even we believe that this is the true God. Because of these sufferings, and because of emotions, we may act, and we are doing that, not according to our beliefs. So what C.S. Lewis is suggesting, he's saying, we need to go back to our beliefs all the days, and just we need to remind to ourselves who is our God, what we believe. And I would say one of the very important questions, not just for believers, but even for atheists, for unbelievers, is why do I believe this stuff? Because I saw in my life so many, let's say even Christians, that never thought about their faith like seriously. They never thought about, why do I believe those stuff? Because somehow I inherited them from my mom's or from my grandma, and I'm believing just automatically in something, and they never had this idea why. But it's a very important question, because if you will be sincere with yourself, if you will question yourself, why do I believe that, and if you will be able to answer all those questions for yourself, your faith will be much more stronger than it was before.
I believe that the Bible is written, within the Bible is written a lot of themes, and the themes follow through from cover to cover. And if a theme is broken somewhere and changed or is different, then somewhere we've misinterpreted that theme. So going with that, I've heard a lot of people, not only recently but even more recently, they want to talk about how we're saved by grace or we're saved in faith, but there's nothing we have to do. Oh, well, God did everything, we don't have to do anything. Well, totally not true. Because if we look at what Jesus said, he says you need to take up your cross and follow me. You need to deny yourself and follow me. If you love me, you'll obey my commandments. I mean, there's a lot of action here about, following him and doing what he wants, obeying him. In Ephesians 2:8, where it says, for by grace you're saved by faith. Again, this word faith is that action word that says we need to act upon within obedience for what grace is giving us. And when we talk about, John 3:16, for God so loved the world that whoever believeth in him. I'm going to use the old English word, believeth in him shall not perish but have everlasting life. We're talking about someone who is acting upon what they know. They're living it. They're faithing, if you will.
They're ending only. They took the train actually, not just watching how train is going. Yeah.
And too many people think that if I understand that he's true, or think that he's true, or think that it's real, I'm okay. I've got my ticket, and that's false, and it's false teaching.
Yeah. So I agree that our faith is also the most important part for our discipleship, because in the way how we accepted Christ, in the same way with faith we need to live our life with Christ. So if we accepted him by grace, by faith, we need to live every day, the way of discipleship, also by grace and faith. So faith is necessary for all our life, not just for one small part of it.
Yeah, totally true. And even the verse that's being, I don't know if you get this in Moldova, but I see this all over the United States, where churches, pastors in churches at the end of their sermon are teaching you can get saved by, look at this verse in Romans, if we confess with our mouth and believe in our heart that Jesus is Lord, then, we are saved. But even the term confess is something that we have in conviction of our guts, that what we confess is something we actually truly we stand strong on, and we believe, we're acting, we're living, we're following with all of our being that Jesus is. Because the word heart literally means your whole being. We act upon it in our whole being that Jesus is Lord. It takes a whole new concept of then if we confess with our mouth, if we say it verbally, then we're good. And that's not what it means in the actual language.
Yeah, actually, I can say verbally anything, and my thoughts can be about something else. It usually happens with us human beings.
Oh, it's terrible. We were talking about praying. You said your time of praying is when you're at nighttime when you lay down. Mine's in the car, but half the time I have music going. So I'll start praying, and all of a sudden, the next thing you know, I'm rocking to the music or singing to the music. It's like, oh, wait a minute. I was praying, and it gets me off track. So, yeah, stuff comes out, and we're not concentrated.
Yeah. So.
Well, I think we've conquered it.
I think we could talk for more hours, hours and hours about faith. It's a so deep topic, and we can cover different aspects of faith. We can cover some we can talk about enemies of faith, like skepticism. Today, I think we are living in a very interesting world. Skepticism is a very popular. It's a very powerful now, and many people are not able to believe because of the skepticism.
I also think people, and this has probably been growing and growing through the years, people are at where they don't want anybody to tell them what to do. They don't want somebody to be accountable to. They just want to do their own thing, and if God is love and God is good with me, then I'm good with God. But if God is not good with me, I don't have to be good with God. I'll do my own thing and God becomes your own self.
So yeah, personal experience is also in some way personal experience with God. It may help you to be closer to God, but also personal experience, if we are appealing just to our personal experience and to say, this is true because it's my experience, it also, you may have some problems because you can get some things really wrong, but because it's your experience, you think it's really important. And many stuff we can cover.
Yeah, and I think those of you who are watching this program, what I've talked about, faith and the addition of the TH onto the word, go back into etymology and some of how languages have been put together, especially in the English language, and how we have formulated, like when you look at the word, faithfully, that's an adjective or adverb. I mean, we're talking about things that have changed the language, and we need to be aware of that. So when we look at Scripture today, what are we looking at? Are we looking at a modernized, way of thinking, or are we going to actually look at what it's written? So when we look at what it's actually written from, and then we take on what was actually taught from the beginning, we're able to discard some of the modern things that they've added to and taken away from the very meanings of what the Scripture has.
Yeah, we didn't touch that, but I think in the modern world, the word faith usually it's saying with something that is irrational, something that
logical way. I have to make sense out of 2 and 2 is 4. It all puts together logically. And I have to, that's the way my mind thinks. So that's unfortunate because I think sometimes it gets harder for me. But once I've got it, which is really cool. And maybe a lot of people don't look at it that way, and they're blessed because they can believe and follow easier than I can. I had to really put things together in my own mind. So.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Good talk. That was a good discussion.
So I think you need to invite me for the next program to continue this topic of faith.
We're leaving pretty soon, actually.
Because I have the impression that we just started our conversation, and we need to stop. So that's not fair.
Well, in a couple of weeks, I guess Anatoly will be here from Moldova. So we'll have another guest in 2 weeks. So that'll be kind of cool. He won't be the same to talk about faith as you are.
Great.
So, but anyway, thank you for joining us today. If you've seen on my the banner going across my program today, you'll see the website. You can go to see Makai and Tanya's website and look them up. If you have any questions for them, your emails are also there, I believe, if I was right on that website.
Yeah, for sure.
And but thank you for joining us. Thank you for participating. Please write comments and ask questions. I'm always going to be able to answer your questions. And I really do appreciate everyone's support. And if you like this, click on subscribe. It'd be easier to get to us anyway. Anyway, have a wonderful day. Have a wonderful week. Aloha.